Oh, hi, this is Quintus Jett from Abundance for America. And and today I think I'm going to speak about something that maybe is more personal. So what I'm about to say is not the official position of Abundance for America. But I want to mention or maybe share with you the thought that Andrew Yang should consider unsuspending his campaign. I say that first off that I can't believe how much has happened in the past 48 hours. It's like, whoa. I mean, so like 2 days ago, he suspended his campaign for president. After some very disappointing performance in New Hampshire. What we saw was, I think, what I referred to a couple days ago as the pessimistic scenario. That happened. But I'll say, though, that in some ways, I'm always surprised, though, when some things that I kind of expect to happen actually kind of somewhat do. So the last video I talked about how no matter what the outcome was, that we were going to be like very excited, like a lot of emotion, that we would, as supporters of Andrew Yang, we would feel a lot of emotion. And if it was positive news, we'd feel excited. If it was disappointing news, we would feel more the negative. And it turns out it was like the latter. But what I think I'm seeing is sort of the kinds of things that I thought we might see, which is we're all reaching out to each other. We heard from the campaign very shortly after the results came in that he was going to suspend. And there's a lot of like talking to each other to figure out what does this all mean and where do we go next. And it does look like we are getting the beginnings of like sort of going from just focusing on Andrew himself and then focusing more on the mission, like the things that he's championing and the things that sort of the mission-oriented things that from the campaign and how we might carry that forward. And so we've been doing that as we've seen all sorts of reactions from the public. Now it's funny that now that Andrew is like suspended, there's all this excitement about him now. Like people are expressing the excitement that they've been latently feeling. I mean, there are even memes about the Bernie supporters coming after us. And I know I've received different communication from friends, family, acquaintances, like, hey, we're sorry about your guy. Yeah, actually, I kind of liked him too, So there's a lot of that going on. And what I'm seeing a lot of is there's talk about maybe going to some of the various kinds of income UBI movements. Like that might be a way that we can focus our time. There's also talk about the UBI caucus. So people running for Congress who believe in UBI and want to support that. And so there's going to be issues about, which candidates are they? What states are they in? Where are their states? What is their situation in terms of their primaries that they're in? And is there sufficient time for us to mobilize to work with them? But I think the surprising thing that kind of came to mind sometime around yesterday is the question about maybe Andrew should consider unsuspending his campaign. It's actually a much more viable solution than initially sounds. Pretty much every presidential campaign goes through something, and a lot of the campaigns that eventually end up winning, there usually is at some point one or a couple of shakeups, as there's like as you hit the reality and of the competition and other things. Pretty much, it's like, again, that saying from boxing, like every plan. No plan survives after the first hit in the mouth. So that's kind of what we've been going through. And so, but yeah, I've been starting to realize that maybe, I mean, on one hand, I would say, I won't say that suspending was a mistake. I won't say that, because in a way it made sense, right? I mean, it's like we had very disappointing performance in Iowa and very disappointing performance in New Hampshire. I think it's reasonable to say that given these results, that we should have some questions to ourselves about, something about our strategy or the execution of strategy obviously was not working. For Iowa, I think a number of us, we can point to some things. I mean, whether it might be that it seems that the campaign wasn't aware of the importance of having precinct captains, the critical role of them, and then being able to mobilize so that we would have precinct captains who were, let's say, from the state of Iowa, or people who were paid and well trained in how to be precinct captains. It looks like we were very weak in that. So in a way, I can kind of see that. But if we were to go on the other side to New Hampshire, I'm not sure what happened, but I think something very significant happened on the strategy execution end, because not only did we not get single digits, but we basically came behind Steyer and Gabbard, which is like, whoa. So I think it's reasonable for Andrew to have dropped out, in the sense that something wasn't working in terms of our campaign and its results, and if we don't really have a clear strategy and ability to execute, why go on? Like, why should we go any further? But I'm starting to think that maybe we should. And so I'm talking about off the top of my head, but I think the key thing about this is a lot of people like Andrew, and it's funny sometimes that, especially in the African American community, it's amazing how many people African Americans know about Andrew Yang and like him. And I'm pretty sure that the outreach of the campaign itself had nothing to do with it. It's like we saw him through other means, and so similarly, it's like there is a certain likability that he carries, and especially after suspending, it's almost like, at least through my own personal grapevines, I got the impression that if Andrew did not suspend his campaign, I'm pretty sure like MSNBC would have made him do it. Like, create the kind of narrative where he would have had no choice but to drop out. So in a way, it's like he had to drop out, and I think, too, just based off the results. And so basically, so here we are. Like, what this provides us an opportunity to do is to basically reboot the campaign. And reboot it properly. Because again, I mentioned that every presidential campaign, at some point, they have to make some changes, some radical ones. And I know some of us in the Yang Gang, among the leaders, we've been sort of talking about that amongst ourselves for the past several months. That the staff that was originally there, the senior staff in the campaign, they've done a great job of bringing everything to this point. Bring it to this point. It's amazing to bring a campaign into the second tier, given that we have a candidate who didn't have any prior elected experience. That's great, but we're reaching a point that we probably would need like a different set of people, and to prepare a vision to be able to do what this presidential campaign requires, which is incredible amounts of scale very quickly. So literally in 2008, the time between Iowa and Texas, that time from Iowa to Texas was about 2.5 months. That's how long the time span was. So there was Super Tuesday in there too and all that. This year, the time between Iowa and Texas isn't 2.5 months. It's 30 days. And within the next 50 days, there's going to be about 30 primary contests. Pretty much every state in the South, except for Louisiana, will have taken place. And Super Tuesday alone includes we try to rattle off Super Tuesday. So, we have, and then again, Super Tuesday is like 2 or 3 days after South Carolina. So we got Virginia, we got North Carolina, we got, Tennessee, we have Arkansas, we have Alabama. Up north, we have Maine, Vermont, and Massachusetts. We have Minnesota, we have Utah, California, Texas, Oklahoma. There are a lot of states happening. So basically what we need is almost like we need the kind of team at its core that's able to facilitate us being able to scale across multiple states at once. So in other words, this can't be like a conventional campaign. in how we operate, which kind of makes sense because we don't have a conventional candidate, so we need to be able to do that and do that very, very quickly. But we won't probably be able to do that in the with the same people. So I mean, in a way, for this to happen and us to be successful. So what I'm saying is that in order for this to work, we almost need a different orientation. In a way, this isn't about, quote, Andrew winning, because there never was the immediate math for him to win. It's almost like our opportunity got better by progressing. So that's not the point. The point is that how do we optimize the ability for more people to know about this freedom dividend and the other things in this platform so that they get adopted, even if that's not Andrew. That is really the point that we should be focused on. But in doing that, there are a couple things that, again, that need to happen. One is Andrew himself and his family. Given the amount of sacrifice of he and his Evelyn and his kids not being able to see him, I think, it's really his choice, to do that. I mean, I think we should really respect that the efforts of his family, in a way, giving up of his family and life and his time to the movement or this mission. So he may not want to do this, and of course, if he does do this, and if we don't have his back, he's going to have to deal with a lot of media pressure. So basically, he's going to need our support and strength in doing this and in basically preparing to circumvent regular media to be successful. So that's one. The second thing that might be important are some of the senior staff around him. People like Zach, Carly, and Nick Ryan. Respecting all the work that they've done, it's almost like them saying to themselves that in order for this movement to really expand in the way that it could if it comes back, that they may have to step aside. That's their final additional gift to the campaign, that they might still be involved, but in order to prepare to be the kind of organization that can go 30 plus states in 50 days, like beginning, like, let's say, like now, or after Valentine's Day or something like that, it's going to take a different set of people and players to do that. So we're going to need to ask that of them, and also to honor the work that they've done in the campaign. And then the third thing is really going to come out to Yang supporters ourselves, because the kind of organization that's going to be required is going to be a lot more significant than this. Will not be a traditional campaign. Like, in other words, the most important thing will not be HQ-directed phone banking and canvassing. One, because, that's mostly a defensive maneuver. Second, it's the country's too big and there are too many primaries, so that won't work. And then three, there are a lot of other campaigns that already have the money and resources to do that. So the kind of campaign that we'll need is something that really relies on more of us, Yang supporters, giving our time, not just our time, but our ingenuity, our creativity, in order to reach out to each other throughout each corner of every state, especially the 30 contests coming up, in order to win. So in that sense, so it's not so unsuspending or activating is really about having it within ourselves to Andrew deciding to do it, the campaign like reshuffling with the different sets of players in the staff, and then it's almost like us, like as Yang supporters, showing our creativity and initiative with each other in order to make these changes and these impacts, reaching out to our fellow Americans about UBI and the freedom dividend. Because really, honestly, the job is not done on that. There are plenty of people throughout southern states, for example, rural and urban, who do not know about the freedom dividend. Imagine what $1,000 a month would do for individuals throughout the United States. And frankly, a lot of people in this country, we need it. I myself am not full-time employed. one of the things I'm doing is I'm beginning to take care of caregiving responsibilities for my mother. So I get it. And there are plenty of other people in this country, and some of you may be watching. We need this freedom dividend in order to help us marshal through this winner-take-all economy that we have. So with that, I mean, I think I'll just I'm about to hop on to Paget, one of our YouTube content creators, and maybe talk about this thing some more. But yeah, I think we're about to. The conversations are already happening out there about asking Andrew to unsuspend his campaign, and I just want to give my endorsement of that idea and the endorsement of these conversations. I think this is more viable than initially one might think, and I'd be glad to discuss with anyone so why this is viable and what we all can do together to make it happen. So until next time.